If yesterday's action was anything to go by, we're set for an absolutely incredible race 2 down here in Phillip Island. It's not just a circuit that's magnificent here in Australia. Cows and Phillip Island itself are blessed with some truly magical landscapes and wildlife. The Penguin March attracts all kinds of folk to this wonderful area of the world. As we're right on the edge of the Bass Strait, weather can often become more than a little unpredictable here, but we won't need to worry about that today with the sun high in the sky. As of 2009, this magical little island of the southern tip of Australia has opened each season of racing and never disappoints. Today in World Superbike, watch out for Marco Malandri, who makes his return to racing. He was right towards the front yesterday, but will be starting pretty far down the grid thanks to the race 2 shake-up after crashing at turn 2. Meanwhile, at the other end of the spectrum, we have Lowe's on board the Yamaha, who is set to shine again from pole position, yesterday producing one of the best rides of his career. Jonathan Ray, the world champion, is hunting the double to start his title defence off in the perfect way possible, with pole position, a race 1 win, and now hopefully a race 2 win. As we said, racing is set to be guaranteed unpredictable, with the grid flipped to race 2 here in Phillip Island. It went down to the wire yesterday under these beautifully blue skies in Phillip Island, and is set to be another scorcher. Both the temperature and the action on track hotting up as we get even later in the day. As you can see, everybody got their hats on, trying to protect themselves from the hot Australian sun. My name is Harry Lloyd. I'm joined in the commentary box by Steve English for race 2, a new era of World Superbikes, with the race 2 grid undergoing a big shuffle. Of course, you can follow all of the action as the track temperature continues to rise. Now 43 degrees on track, pretty similar to what we saw yesterday, with some big strategy going on about the tyres. We'll bring you a little more on that in a second. You can follow along with all of the action on the official World Superbike Android and iOS app. You'll never miss a moment of the action. It features live timing, live tracking, live audio from Steve and myself, so we're always right there with you. It also has destination guides, facts and figures about all the teams and riders, as well as the latest interviews and behind the scenes tidbits. And best of all, it's free to download. You'd be a fool not to get it, because the action does require more than one device to follow. That's how intense it is here in World Superbikes 2017, the 30th year of World Superbikes, as we had huge shake-up for the grid here in Australia and throughout the year, with the race 2 grid now decided by the results of race 1, which means that Jonathan Ray, who won the race yesterday, will start down in 9th place. There he is, just chatting calmly with his crew. Currently leads the championship with 25 points. The familiar number 1 now on the green, red and black Kawasaki. As we said, he starts in 9th. So he had qualified on pole. He will start 9th, loses 8 places. So a lot of work to do for him. He'll be behind Chaz Davies on the grid. There you can see Chaz Davies and Jonathan Ray had a great battle out the front, but there was a bit more than meets the eye with the World Superbike race. Afterwards, a bit of tension, I guess we could say, between Jonathan Ray and Chaz Davies. Italian website GP1 reporting that during his press debriefing, Jonathan Ray had said, you know, us and the Ducatis have pretty much the same top speed, if I can get my words out. Chaz Davies arguing that point a little allegedly, according to GP1, as we said. And then, yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what the actual top speeds are. We will keep an eye on those. There is Chaz Davies, one of the riders known for his comebacks, never been much of a qualifier. He had started in 4th place for that first race, will now start down in 8th place on the 3rd row of the grid. Davies started 9th here last year and got 2nd place. His other 3rd row start in 2016 led to a 4th place and a DNF in Misano. So Davies, he's riding much smarter, so I think we can definitely see him certainly get inside that top 5 and almost guaranteed to be in the podium mix. This new grid format for World Superbike, sure to make for an absolutely incredible race for everybody watching along at home. Some riders in favour of it, some riders a bit more cautious about it. Hopefully we'll have Steve English down on the grid in just a little bit to get some opinions on that. Steve, tell us a bit about how that race went, because you and I thought it was a great battle, but it seems like Davies and Ray especially holding back a little bit yesterday.
Well, to be honest, it doesn't matter if Davies and Ray were holding back. We had a great race to watch, and the fans loved it. And you know, it did look like Jonathan Ray and Chaz Davies, they do have a bit of pace in hand, but they were wary of just overusing the rear tyres yesterday, and that's really what caused him to back it up. It was interesting just talking to some of the riders. Leon Camier, for one, just saying that it seemed like Ray and Davis just racing really well within themselves. But one man that wasn't racing within himself was Alex Lowe's. Great performance on the Yamaha. And,
what a ride.
Yeah.
Maybe the best I've ever seen him ride in World Superbikes. He will now start from pole position, as he did finish the race in 4th, and could very well be in the best position to return to the podium for the first time since 2015.
Yeah, and Lowe's riding really well. Looks like he's really taken the lessons of the winter to heart. He said all the way through the winter that the goal for him was just to have more consistency, avoid making mistakes, and just work on his race times, his race pace, and that's really what he did yesterday in that fight for 4th. Narrowly missed out on the podium with Tom Sykes, but I think today it's going to be a big challenge to be able to go with Davis and Ray. But as Lowe said yesterday in an interview for WorldSBK.com, everyone's going to make a step forward from Saturday to Sunday, and it's up to Yamaha to make the same kind of step forward.
Exactly. Flores will now start on the front row as well. He moves from the 3rd row to the 1st row, gained 5 places on the grid thanks to this new format, so big advantage for the Spanish rider, who also showed pretty strong pace here yesterday.
Yeah, crash for Flores in Superpole really robbed him of the chance of showing what he could do in terms of one-lap pace, but really strong performance in the race from the Spaniard, and we saw him really able to get through to the front. He said it was the first time really that in the dry he's been in that scrap at the front of the field, and definitely it made a big difference for him just to really understand what he needs to do to improve. He said getting more life out of the rear tyre, just understanding how to maintain that life to still be able to fight in the closing laps with those guys at the front. That's what the goal is for him. Nikki Hayden, on the other hand, the goal for Hayden is probably just to get through this weekend. Difficult time on the Honda, with the bike really struggling here once we've gotten through to the start of the season. Brand new bike, lots of new parts still to come, but difficult start to the season.
Yep, Hayden will line up in 12th place on the grid. Finished 11th, so finished outside that top 9. So therefore, the row that he's on, led by Marco Malandri, who unfortunately crashed him. So Malandri, Savadori and Hayden, their grid position is decided by their pace from Superpole. So Hayden did start the first race in 11th, now slides down to 12th place, with both Malandri and Savadori failing to finish. Bit of a reshuffle on the grid outside of that top 9 as well. Really, really impressive ride, in all honesty, from this man here, Jordi Torres. He will start 4th. He was 7th in the race, started 7th. Just some great consistency from the Spanish rider on that BMW, as BMW hunt their first ever victory at Phillip Island.
Yeah, and BMW will be hunting for a bit longer for that first Phillip Island win, with Torres able to set some decent times and consistent race yesterday, but to be able to make the step forward to get into that lead group probably just ask too much for Torres, who in his couple of years in World Superbikes has impressed. If you remember back to 2015, his rookie season, at the last round in Qatar, he won there. He was the only rider that wasn't a British rider to win that season. But Torres, he has developed quite well on the World Superbikes and package, and really with that BMW into its 2nd year, be interesting to see what he can do through the season.
Talking about rookies, really tough debut for Stefan Bradl yesterday. Struggled immensely with that Honda, just like Nikki Hayden. Bradl coming home in 15th to collect 1 point, and here we ride with Stefan Bradl through turn 3. We heard from Stefan Bradl so this is onto the start-finish straight. We heard from Stefan Bradl that he is losing almost all of his time through turn 3, just really struggling to get that Honda working. Nikki Hayden struggling down the straight with top-end speed. So much work to do on that new CBR SP2 Fireblade. There's Tom Sykes. Tom Sykes is set to start this race from 7th place, having finished the race, in 3rd place. Sykes, not one who is known for his tremendous comebacks, but could surprise us all. He surprised me, certainly, with the fight he put up at the front. Because, as we said, Sykes definitely a rider who can qualify well, and if he gets away at the front, he can absolutely cruise. But Phillip Island, never been one of his favourite circuits. He admitted yesterday that finishing on the podium was like a win for Tom Sykes. There we can see Randy Krumnacher and Leon Camier just following Jonathan Ray out of pit lane as we get set to form up on the grid. Steve English just getting set to do a bit of a grid walk for us and bring us some of those opinions of those riders. Of course, we will talk to Lowe's, who is the first benefactor of this incredible new system implemented by Dorna to shake things up for race 2. As we said, Lowe's starts on pole. We'll then also certainly chat to Jonathan Ray and hopefully Chaz Davies and Tom Sykes as well as they get shoveled down to the third row. Huge unpredictable levels. We just have so many riders, so many fast riders starting further down the grid. We have Sykes, Davies, Ray, Malandri, Savadori, who could all come through and fight for that podium. Meanwhile, as we said, Stefan Bridle, he'll be looking to improve on his 15th position in qualifying and his 15th position in the race beforehand as well. Green flags wave in pit lane as the former MotoGP poleman and podium finisher, of course, in Laguna Seca a little while ago when he was riding for that LCR Honda team. Marco Malandri, another MotoGP rider, come to World Superbikes, actually making his return to World Superbikes. Of course, Malandri didn't race at all on anything competitive last year. Did a bit of racing in the Italian 250cc Motocross Championship, I believe. Chaz Davies had an incredible year last year, won 7 out of the last 8 races, won the final 6 races in a row, in fact. Really, really incredible stuff for the Welsh rider, Nikki Hayden. He's very familiar with this Phillip Island circuit, was on track for a top 10 when he substituted Danny Pedrosa at the MotoGP race last year. But here is the man of the moment, Jonathan Ray, the world champion, currently leading the world championship. Of course, Jonathan Ray seeking to do something that has never been done before in 30 years of World Superbike, and that is win 3 titles on the bounce. Of course, the likes of Troy Bayliss and Carlos Fogarty have won 3 or more titles, but have never done it in a row. This would truly become the reign of Ray if he were to be able to claim this victory. But can this man here shake up the established order, starting from pole position, number 22, Alex Lowe's, of course, twin brother to Sam Lowe's. Looking so strong on that Yamaha, struggling a bit through turn 10 and then into turn 11 with it, hitting false neutral a couple of times in the race yesterday. No doubt he and that Pata Yamaha team will have been working throughout the night to get that issue resolved. Another front row start. Forez there on the Ducati number 12. Pretty similar spec bike to those factory boys, but of course just a one-man band in that Barney Racing team for the Spanish rider. He did finish on the podium last year in the Lausitz-Ring circuit he's very familiar with, having won the 2014 IDM, the German Championship Superbike Championship. Chaz Davies there. Great onboard shots with Chaz Davies. This shot here, facing forward from the rear of his Ducati Panigale, is going to be absolutely incredible when the lights go out and we see Davies try and charge through from 8th place. I am very excited for that one as the familiar number 7 rolls onto the grid alongside Roman Ramos, the number 40 there. Ramos doing quite well yesterday to pick up 3 points. Ramos, one of the most consistent riders in this championship. Last year, he scored points in every single race that he started. Unfortunately, he missed 4 races due to an injury, but Ramos approaching this season healthy as ever. Nikki Hayden, 69 in that lovely Red Bull Honda livery. As did Hayden, will start in 12th place, so losing 1 grid position over where he started yesterday's race. The biggest benefactor, I'm sure we'll get to him, is Eugene Lavity, who starts 5th, having qualified in 13th for the first race. He gains 8 places. That man on your screen there, Jonathan Ray, is going to lose 8 places, and I think we're going to now cut down to Steve with Chaz Davies starting from 8th.
Back on the second line, Bray on the third position.
I have the mic, it's here.
Okay, 1 or 2 technical issues there with getting Steve on the grid. We will come back to Steve in just a little bit as we look at the new pole man, Alex Lowe's, number 22. 79 World Superbike starts, 3 podiums. This is his first pole position, of course, and he hasn't yet had a win. Yamaha looking to return to winning ways here. Been a little while for them, not since Marco Malandri rode for them have they stood on top of the box. Leon Camier. He rode out of his skin yesterday. He'll start the race in 2nd place, as we just quickly listen to his conversation.
I feel quite loose. Turn 9 over the hill. I had
Okay, looks like some traction control issues there for Leon Camier. And now I believe we have Steve down there with Tom Sykes on the grid. Tom Sykes starting in 7th place.
Tom Sykes, 7th on the grid for you after race 1. What's your feeling ahead of race 2?
Yeah, you know, looking forward to it. It's real strange with the reverse grid, but you know, it's a new philosophy, new theory, and let's give it a go. You know, my start wasn't very good yesterday, so hopefully today we can be strong on the start. But you know, we'll go racing. It's another glorious day here in Phillip Island, and ready for it. Really, you know, it's a long old race and many possibilities.
Cheers, Tom.
Tom Sykes there, a bit cautious heading into this race too. Of course, this is, as we keep saying, the first race of this new format. Eugene Lavity, as I was saying before, picks up 8 grid positions, goes from the 5th row to the 2nd row, 13th to 5th. He's having a lot of trouble getting that Aprilia to work as he would like. That bike has changed a considerable amount since he last rode it. Huge success when he last rode it, but starting from 5th, I think we could see Lavity in podium contention. Certainly going to be able to have a bit of an advantage over the likes of Sykes, Ray and Davies. And now I think we do finally have Steve down there with Chaz Davies.
Chaz Davies, middle of the 3rd row. What's your feelings ahead of the first race of the new schedule, new system?
Fine, to be honest with you. I think that I said it before, I came from 9th on the grid here last year, so here of all places, probably Phillip Island's one of the easier places to be starting a little bit further back, but no doubt about it, it'll be an interesting race. There's a lot of guys who are hungry and their bikes are working seemingly you know, a lot closer to the guys that are typically up front, so yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one, and we'll play it as sensibly as we can and try and come home with big points at the end of it.
Thanks, Chaz.
Davies there seeming a little more optimistic than Tom Sykes. In all honesty, there is Sykes, of course, starting in 7th place. Tom Sykes much more accustomed to starting from pole position. Sykes there will have to make a big move from that far back, but we have seen riders come through. As Chaz Davies said, this is one of the better circuits for overtaking. It does suck everybody along and keep everybody nice and close together. There you can see at the back of the grid, one of the Grillini bikes there, Ayrton Badavini. He had a bit of an off this morning. Chaz Davies, who we just heard from, climbs aboard his number 7 Ducati right there. As we said, Davies, 128 race starts, 20 wins, 50 podiums, only 3 poles. Davies himself admits that he's not the biggest or best qualifier, but certainly one who comes good on race day. And he'll need to come good right now, starting from the 3rd row of the grid. But if one man can do it, it is certainly those 3 men there at the back, Sykes, Davies and Jonathan Ray, the reigning world champion. There he is, number 1, talking to Australian media. Kev there just holding the fan. Kev always by Jonathan's side, helping him out with whatever he needs, trying to make everything as smooth as possible for the reigning world champion. That lovely design on his Arai helmet there as well. There we look back onto the grid. Flores starting on the front row in 3rd position. He'll be one to watch. Those Ducatis made an incredible start to the race yesterday, seemed to be working very well off the line. Savadori there, he starts down in 11th place, had a crash out of the race while rapidly gaining down on the top 5. Certainly has the speed, maybe not quite the experience to battle with these guys at the front, but starting in 11th. Bit of work to do. He'll hopefully be helped along by those riders just ahead of him, because it would be great to add some Italian spice to the mix. He is an Italian who's a very spicy man, I must say. Marco Malandri unfortunately had a crash yesterday in the race. On his return to racing, doing very well, but seemed to get in a bit of a disagreement with another one of the riders about what actually happened with the crash there. But Marco Malandri will be starting in 10th spot ahead of this man, Nikki Hayden, who, as we said, will start at the back of the 4th row in 12th place. Nikki Hayden, of course, the only non-Kawasaki or Ducati winner last year, taking that incredible win in Sepang on the older Fireblade. Now trying to develop that newer Fireblade. Some people saying that they will have a new engine for Thailand, nothing being confirmed yet. Marcos Reiterberger, he'll line up at the head of the 5th row on the BMW, looking to chase down his teammate Jordi Torres, who, as we said, starts up in 4th place. And now we are going to go down to English Steve with number 1, that is Jonathan Ray, down in 9th place.
Jonathan Ray, pole position yesterday on the win, but 9th on the grid today. What's your chance of getting through to the front again?
I think we've got a good chance, to be honest, to fight at the front, but just have to see how the story of the race pans out. I mean, this is such a strategic race anyway, and to be put in the 3rd row, we just have to see how it plays out and try and make a smart game plan from, we'll see what happens in the first few laps, but I think this race is always won in the last 5, so I'll try to be there then.
All right, thanks, Johnny.
Johnny, much like Chaz Davies, feeling pretty ready, pretty confident for this race. For those who did join us for the World Supersport race, huge drama and excitement there. Really anything can happen in motorcycle racing, and especially at the spectacular Phillip Island circuit. There he is, number 22, Alex Lowe's, smiling from a pole position. Nice clear run down to turn 1 towards the ocean, towards Duan Corner, and then onto the southern loop. Stefan Bradl, number 6. Just his 2nd World Superbike start, of course, as a rookie in this class. Former world champion, winning the Moto2 World Championship aboard a Kalex. Now trying his hand at World Superbike on that Honda team. Huge talent and experience in that Honda team with Nikki Hayden alongside Stefan Bradl. Josh Brooks, there he is. Much like Ant West in the race before, a self-funded wildcard, very homegrown effort for West and the ER Motorsport EliteRoads.com.au team there. Brooks and his lovely girlfriend Amy there spent many a night up building the bike, painting the bike. Really incredible effort. They unfortunately were unable to complete race 1 due to a water cooling issue. The engine just getting too hot, and Brooks forced to retire for fear of damaging that engine. Of course, that Yamaha that he's on is more or less the same bike with which he won the British Championship before moving to World Superbike last year with the Sean Muir Racing Team back when they ran BMWs. Roman Ramos there in 17th. As we said, one of the most consistent riders in the championship, yet to win a race nor get on the podium, but you can guarantee that as long as he can stay upright, he will score some points. Able to always just, set a nice steady flow of laps and get inside the top 15 once the race does come to an end. Here we go, getting closer and closer to the race start as we look out onto the Bass Strait and listen to the Australian National Anthem.
Let us rejoice, for we are young and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Absolutely beautiful national anthem to get this race started with. Of course, it will be another 22-lap contest around this incredible Phillip Island circuit. The lap record set by Chaz Davies in 2014, a 1:30.949 lap times, over half a second slower yesterday as they were playing a bit of cat and mouse. Andre Yekes there. Again, another World Superbike rookie, number 37 from the Czech Republic. He'll be starting in 19th spot and looking to just steadily improve and learn the big 1000cc bikes. Ricardo Russo there on the Yamaha. Russo and the team both with former World Superbike experience. As you can see there, 5 previous starts for Russo, as he'll also look to try and improve a bit. We are now joined back in the commentary box by Steve English after those wonderful grid interviews as we see the safety car roll off down the Gardner Straight.
battle. Speed, adrenaline, drama.
Don't miss the action.
Don't miss the action indeed. It is set to be an absolutely incredible World Superbike Race 2 here in Phillip Island as the riders prepare to leave for their formation lap. Lowe's ahead of Camia, ahead of Forrest. Very unusual front row there thanks to this new system. Torres, Laverty, Vandermark. There you can see where they finished in the first race to earn these grid positions. Watch out for Vandermark, very aggressive rider. Sykes, Davies and Ray, they're starting on the third row ahead of Malandri, Savadori and Nikki Hayden in 10th, 11th and 12th. Righty Ryderberger there ahead of Randy Krumnak, who celebrated his birthday yesterday. Stefan Bridle in 15th. Brooks in 16th. Ramos 17th there ahead of Russo. Then Yekes, De Angelis and Badavini rounding out the grid as the bikes roar off the line. What a noise all of those superbikes make. 21 bikes out here today. Of course, unfortunately, Taddy Mercado, missing this race due to some broken ribs sustained in a training accident. Our best wishes do go out to Taddy and all of the IOTA squad.
Yeah, just as the field comes through on the formation lap back to the grid, just to give a couple of bits and pieces that we picked up yesterday, Harry, from talking to the riders after the race. Jonathan Ray, who won the race, said he was mostly concerned just with looking after the tyre, and he'd actually been concerned that maybe Ducati and Chaz Davies had been looking after the tyre a little bit better than him and would be stronger than him in the final couple of laps. That's something to keep an eye on today. But Ray saying that the conditions caught Kawasaki off guard with the rise in temperature, changing the balance of the bike. And see Jordi Torres with a problem off the line. So
disaster for him. Set to start fourth. Great grid position for him. Maybe he can make it back to the pits and potentially start from pit lane, but it's going to be a big ask no matter what.
Well, Torres just pulling off to the left-hand side, not near the pit exit as well, so probably unlikely to see Torres start this race. When you look at the track conditions, quite similar to what we saw yesterday. And as I said, Jonathan Ray saying Kawasaki caught out a little bit by those conditions. Chaz Davies said that he ran his own race yesterday, was concentrating just on what he needed to do, and the main focus was just not to give away any points to Jonathan Ray too easily in these early races. That was the main focus for Chaz Davies yesterday. Davies starting from 8th on the grid. He has won from the third row of the grid once in the past on WorldSBK. And another man that has done that twice is Tom Sykes, who's won from the third row at Donington a few years ago. And Sykes said it was a strange race, but just glad to be able to stand on the podium at Phillip Island. When you look at the front row, Lowe's, Camir and Forres, strong races from all three, and Camir saying was quite unexpected for him on the MV. We can see Chaz Davies now just coming up to the third row of the grid. Davies starting race 2 from 8th position.
Yep, as I said before, that onboard camera of Davies is going to offer us some incredible views, I can guarantee. The red flag man there at the front as we wait for everybody to form up on the grid before the lights go out. 22 laps of absolutely thrilling action. Does not look like Torres has made the grid, unfortunately. There, Paul Denning watching on. Big gap for where Torres is. Watch out for Markham Landry, number 33, made an incredible start yesterday. The lights will go red, and when we go out, we will be racing, and we are go again at Phillip Island. A great start from Lowe's as well as Forres. It looks like as we charge down into turn 1, it looks like it is Forres who leads. Chaz Davies up the inside. What a start on the Ducati, leaving behind the two Kawasaki's, up into 4th place already for the number 7 as we make our way towards the southern loop for the first time.
Yeah, we saw Davies make a great start yesterday, and the same again today from the number 7 Ducati up to 4th, but Laverty just trying to slide down the inside of the Ducati riders. Davies now pushed back down to 5th position. Good start from Michael Vandermark to convert 6th on the grid. You can see Jonathan Ray and Chaz Davies. Jonathan Ray trying to go around the outside through turn 3. Not a move that we tend to see too often, but it puts him on the right line to maybe try and attack under braking into Honda hairpin when he gets through on Vandermark. But it looks like we've got Javi Forres just running deep into the Honda hairpin. And it's Lowe's from Laverty. Great start from Laverty from the middle of the third row, middle of the second row to get through to second.
Yeah, Forrest does recover to provisionally hold third place with the big frame of Camia just behind ahead of his great friend Chaz Davies. Jonathan Ray also now making up some pretty solid ground to get behind his great rival Chaz Davies. It looks like Vandermark is still ahead of Sykes. Ray up the inside now of Chaz Davies. Chaz Davies staying nice and close as they come up over Luke Yates before throwing themselves down into MG. Vandermark trying to get through on Davies, can't quite do it. Lowe's continues to lead, 1 or 2 bike lengths ahead of Laverty there.
And the key thing that we're going to see now is, can Tom Sykes start making those moves? Good performance yesterday, great performance really, given his results at Phillip Island in the past. Sykes taking his 3rd podium here at the track. But can he make the moves now to get back towards the podium places? Alex Lowe's is going to lead the first lap from Laverty and Fares, but really it's all about how those guys from the 3rd row have been able to move themselves through and pick up a couple of places in these early laps. You can see Jonathan Ray just trying to get down the inside of Leon Camier. Camier just running a little bit wide, so Ray now up into 4th. Chaz Davies follows him through as well. Yesterday, it was pretty clear that Davis was just focusing on Jonathan Ray, and just when Jonathan Ray hit the front, Davis immediately moved through the group to get into 2nd position and stay with his championship rifle. You can see Eugene Laverty just trying to ghost down the inside through turn 3 on Alex Lowe's. This was a corner really where Laverty was struggling yesterday, but now able to use good drive through 3 to get down the inside into Honda Hairpin, but Lowe's able to hold the tight line and keep the lead. But as they come into Siberia, Laverty's going to try and get down the inside, but good riding there from Lowe's to be able to stay in front.
Exactly, great battle between these two at the front as Flores does look on. This is exactly what the likes of Ray, who is now ahead of Chaz Davies, want. They need these guys to be battling to keep the pace a tiny bit slower so that they can catch up. Marco Malandri not making the start we thought he would. Malandri currently in 9th place, just at the back of your screens there, before we cut to this wide shot over Lukey Heights once again.
Yeah, that's what the challenge is for Marco Malandri in these early stages, just to try and get his racing brain back up to speed. He's able to do the 1 lap, but can he do the race run? Yesterday we saw him make a mistake and run out wide at turn 2, and that's what cost him in the race. You can see Jonathan Ray now just closing up on the back of Xavi Fares, so maybe just on the way down the pit straight into turn 1 we might see a change of 3rd position. Laverty, we know the Aprilia's got good top speed, and you can see he's right there with Lowe's as well as they come towards the line. But Xavi Fares using the slipstream really well, 3 abreast across the line. Lowe's goes from 1st to 3rd, but Fares manages to get through as well on Eugene Laverty, so Fares leading from Laverty.
Great move there from the Spaniard. We do have 4 different bikes in the top 4.
And when you look in the background, you can see Melandri's got through on Tom Sykes. Tom Sykes being bullied down to 9th position now.
And we do have confirmation that unfortunately Jordi Torres is out of this race. Huge disappointment for the Spaniard, who was set to start 4th, but it is another Spaniard who currently leads this race. Flores on that Barney Ducati with Eugene Laverty right behind Ray, up into 3rd position ahead of Lowe's.
Yeah, and yesterday we saw Fares say that the main concern for him was trying to get used to racing at the front, get used to being in that battle for the leading positions. Well, he's in the lead now, but he said that he needed to understand just how to make that rear tyre last a little bit longer, just to give him a little bit more grip and allow him to attack, to be quicker in those final laps of the race.
Exactly, pretty disastrous start for Randy Krumnacher as well. Was in the top 10 yesterday, now just moving up into 19th place. It is still Flores as Ray continues to rapidly close down on Laverty on the Aprilia. Great start to the race for Laverty, showing a bit more of his potential after his race one was hampered a fair bit by a crash in Superpole.
Yeah, and yesterday, after that crash, Laverty finished 8th, but in those closing stages of the race, the key thing for him was, I've got to get into the top 9, I've got to get into the top 9. It'll mean I'll start at worst on the 2nd row of the grid. And he's used that well today to convert that to take 2nd on the opening lap, and now he's just chasing down Xavi Fares.
Exactly, there we can see the pit bulls plus 0 for Flores as Laverty does chase him down the straight. About a 1/3 of a second gap between Flores and Laverty, and it looks like we do have Ricardo Russo has unfortunately crashed out at turn 11 as well, a bit further down the order.
And Ray through on Laverty into 2nd as well. Chaz Davies just still there in 5th, but needing to get through on Alex Lowe's on the Yamaha. Otherwise, as we saw yesterday, the key thing being just focus on Jonathan Ray's key championship rival and all likelihood.
Exactly, the pace now mid to low 132s for everybody. Again, a fair bit slower than we expected, but these conditions so hot as Lowe's. Big move up the inside at the Honda hairpin. Can Davies get back through? No, Davies can't quite do it. Davies is forced to settle for 5th at this moment.
Yeah, Lowe's was really good into turn 4 yesterday. We saw him make a couple of moves into there. Really deep braking, but still able to get the bike held up in time. So that could be an opportunity for him. Uses the agility of the Yamaha through Stoner Corner as well quite well. So that's the key overtaking spot for Lowe's. Whereas for Laverty on the Aprilia, it's about using that top end to get through it into turn 1.
Yep, Leon Camier putting up a pretty good fight there, just ahead of Tom Sykes, as Laverty gets taken by Chaz Davies as well. It is still Lowe's who leads that small chasing group as Flores and Ray continue to forge ahead at the front. 19 laps to go. It will be 18 once we cross the finish line in just a few moments as they come through turn 12 and make their way towards and then down the Gardner Straight here in Australia.
And you can see at the back of this group, it's Tom Sykes, but a big gap to Nikki Hayden in the group behind. But you can see Marco Malandri just trying to use the power of the Ducati to get through him. Michael van der Mark not quite able to make the move, but van der Mark trying to run around the outside. We saw him do this really well last year, to put him on the inside into Southern Loop when he was riding the Honda. Trying to do the same thing with the Yamaha now, but Malandri also just... it's the good thing about World Superbikes. All the bikes work in different ways, so through some of the corners, such as the double apex at Southern Loop or into Siberia, we see lots of variety from the lines. Savadori moves into the top 10 now as well.
Exactly, you can guarantee that fight between van der Mark and Malandri will hot up as Laverty slides ahead of Marco Malandri, continuing to just chase Lowe's for a potential top 4. Laverty currently in 5th position.
Yeah, good stuff from Laverty just to maintain that position ahead of van der Mark and Marco Malandri. But you can see Xavi Fares at the front now, and right behind him, Jonathan Ray. So Ray's not been held up too badly by having to start from the 3rd row. Chaz Davies also started from the 3rd row, and he's mirrored the moves of Jonathan Ray. He's into 3rd and just behind his rival for last year's championship. You can see Marco Malandri just diving down the inside of Laverty into MG, but Laverty just trying to hook the bike up now. Whoa! Big slide for Laverty on the way through, but manages to get through on Malandri. And van der Mark takes advantage of that as well to make a move on Marco Malandri and get into 6th position.
Exactly, Leon Camier still continuing to hold up Tom Sykes there in 9th place. Sykes not making the same progress that his fellow 3rd row starters did. It is Jonathan Ray who is currently looking up the inside of Forrest, and he's a slide through into the lead for the first time in this 2nd race at the Doing corner. Alarm bells will be ringing for Chaz Davies. Davies needs to try and get ahead of his fellow Ducati rider ASAP.
And this is one of the tracks that does work really well for Jonathan Ray and the Kawasaki. Chaz Davies said yesterday, a difficult track for him and Ducati. It's really positive to be able to take 2nd position in race 1, but now he needs to get through on Fares and see if he can attack Jonathan Ray. I think for Chaz Davies, just to be able to get through into 2nd and start just staying with Ray, that'll be a good opening 3rd of the race for the Welshman. You can see just the differences between the Ducatis and the Kawasaki's, and you'd imagine that Davis is just going to look to make the move on Fares in the next lap and try and get through, probably into turn 1.
Yeah, it looks like immediately Davies has tried to pick up the pace. Lowe's continuing to stick with these top 3. Another great ride from the Pata Yamaha rider.
And the gap behind Lowe's to Marco Malandri is about 1.5 seconds now. So they have opened the gap just as Malandri, Laverty and van der Mark have had that bit of a scrap last time around. So you can see through MG it's still quite close between the Ducatis of Fares and Davis. So maybe we'll see if Davis is just able to use that slipstream to get through down the Gardner Straight.
Yeah, exactly. Davies will now hopefully benefit from a double slipstream. Davies a slightly bigger rider physically than Forrest, but not too much size difference between them. Certainly a smaller size difference than the difference between Davies and Malandri as we roar our way down the Gardner Straight. As we said before, GP1 reporting that there were some controversy, some differing opinions about the top speed of the Ducati and the Kawasaki.
And you can see a red mark just beside Marco Malandri's name. That's to say that he's just after setting the fastest lap of the race. He was 0.7 of a second faster than the race leader, Jonathan Ray.
Yep, Davies continuing to just hunt for us. Still 16 laps to go. As we said, it is still very hot out here. Riders lapping in the high 131s, unless your name is Marco Malandri, in which case you're in the low 131s. Riders very, very worried about tyre life yesterday with similar conditions. As Davies slides up the inside as Forrest runs a bit wide at turn 4, the Honda hairpin. So easy to do. Davies is now in 2nd place, trying to hunt down Jonathan Ray before he can get too far ahead.
A good move from Davis there. And just trying to make those moves as early as he can to stay with Jonathan Ray. Behind these, Tom Sykes has managed to move up into 6th position, trying to follow Marco Malandri back up to this lead group. But Eugene Laverty starting to struggle for pace for Laverty's. Dropped down into the high 32s at this stage, into 8th position, and really under pressure from Leon Camier. Camier looked like a man trying to make a move into the Honda hairpin, so he might try and make a move into MG as well, with the MV Augusta really working quite well into those slower corners.
Exactly, Marco Malandri's made huge strides to catch up with Lowe's and Forrest. Lowe's also trying to look for a way past on Forrest. Be interesting to see what these 3 can do down the straight. Marco Malandri had been hitting some of the highest top speeds throughout the weekend. Marco Malandri obviously a very small rider, sort of your classic motorcycle racer. Very, very small as we come down. Looks like Malandri is trying to line up something from Lowe's. Malandri does try and slide up the inside of Lowe's, can't quite do it. Lowe's and Marco Malandri, number 33 and number 22, not exactly best friends off track.
Yeah, we saw at this corner yesterday, Malandri run in too deep, and he said afterwards that contact from Lowe's is what caused him to run in deep and crash. But really, it looked just like Malandri just went in a little bit too hot and just couldn't get the bike pulled up in time, and that's what caused him to go through the gravel trap. But no love lost between the two of them already. But Lowe's now into third as well, making the move on Javi Fares.
And further down the field, it does look like Sykes was able to get past Camille. Camille now dropping down the order a fair bit into 9th. So Sykes leads Van der Mark, Ravi, Camille, and then Savadori rounding out the top 10. Of course, a beautiful day to be watching motorcycle racing down here at the Phillip Island. The stands absolutely packed with fans watching this incredible battle at the front. Over 60,000 people here to watch a great superbike race too.
Yeah, and as I was coming into the commentary box, lots of the Aussies offering a couple of beers for it, and they'll be enjoying this to see Fares get down the inside into MG, but Lowe's able just to get that bike, get the drive on the way out, and use the power of the Yamaha just as Fares is running a little bit too deep.
Meanwhile, Chaz Davies is now right on the rear of Jonathan Ray, and we do have confirmation that unfortunately number 86 has crashed out of this race. That's Etan Badavini there, you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. He did have a crash this morning in warm-up. Here we go, 5 abreast. Marco Malandri trying it around the outside. Lowe's having a big look up the inside of Jonathan Ray as well, but it is Davies who now leads this race. Jonathan Ray still sticking with him and trying to get past.
And Nikki Hayden dropped down the order now as well in the final sector, so maybe a mistake from Nikki Hayden through the fast corners just to bring you through to the end of the lap, turn 11 or turn 12.
Nothing to choose between these leading 5 riders. We do have confirmation that it looks like Nikki Hayden has crashed. He has rejoined at turn 10. Pretty disastrous weekend for the Kentucky kid. He won't be happy with that there. You can see, looks like a right-hander. The brake guard bent up some, looks like some grass on the engine cover there as well.
Yeah, so probably into MG, but you can see Chaz Davies leading the way here from Jonathan Ray after making the move through turn 1, but you can see Alex Lowe's still holding that 3rd position. Strong stuff from Lowe's after what he did yesterday as well, to be able to maintain this form into race 2.
Exactly, Lowe said coming into this weekend he really just wants 2 top 5s, so that would be an excellent result from him. Camille starting to recover after dropping down the field a bit early and moving ahead of Eugene Laverty up into 8th spot there, just behind Michael van der Mark as we follow the leaders over Luke Yates and then down through MG. Such an iconic set of corners here. It is still Davies who leads ahead of Ray, with Lowe doing very well in 4th to hold off the Ducati pairing of Fares and Malandri. Still 14 laps to go, still so much to unfold in this race as we go on board with Jonathan Ray looking back ahead at Chaz Davies.
Yeah, yesterday Ray said that he thought that the Ducati was just focusing on tyre conservation, and that was going to give Davis an edge in the final stage of the race. You see Fares gets through on Lowe's on the braking into turn 1, but runs a bit deep. Lowe's trying to hold that low line and get through on Fares. Good riding there from Lowe's just to get back past the Ducati rider. But Jonathan Ray said he thought that Davis was focusing a little bit more on tyre conservation, and that was going to give him the edge in the closing stages. But you can see right now both the 2 guys that we expected are out at the front and battling wheel to wheel. You can see Malandri now down the inside of Lowe's.
Yep, great work from Malandri after setting a couple of fast laps to be up with this leading group. As we said, it is his teammate Chaz Davies who leads ahead of Jonathan Ray. Fares still holding 3rd, but you can expect Marco Malandri to try and attack as we edge ever closer to half races. And of course, over 40 degrees track temperature, riders very, very, very worried about tyre life yesterday. Interesting to see how the race does unfold now that they know what to expect from those Pirellis.
Yeah, when we come across the line next time, we're just at halfway distance. Nikki Hayden comes into the pits after that crash. But in the second half of the race, we're going to see if Fares is able to take those lessons from race 1 and actually go with Jonathan Ray and Chaz Davies.
Davies looking pretty comfortable out the front, trying to just edge ahead of Jonathan Ray. Both he and Jonathan Ray so evenly matched, had so many great battles last year and had a great battle in this first race. Sykes, the other main, championship favourite, you'd say, before the start of this season, still down in 6th place. As we said before, Tom Sykes never really getting on well with this Phillip Island circuit. Davies gets sucked back by Jonathan Ray. Jonathan Ray trying to get past the Ducati down the straight, but can't quite do it. Jonathan Ray forced to settle for 2nd as they round Doing corner. Marco Malandri up there in 3rd, but Fares is breathing down his neck.
Yeah, and you can see Tom Sykes just starting to edge closer and closer to this group. Last time around, he was about 3/4 of a second faster than what we saw from Alex Lowe's.
Interesting there, we see the top speed times. Davies yesterday claiming that the Kawasaki's were faster than the Ducati, but there we can see that the top 2 spots were himself and Malandri. So still a lot to watch as we see them break hard down into turn 4. Forrest up the inside of Malandri once again.
Yeah, a lot of that coming down to who's got the slipstream at any given time as well. I think throughout most of the weekend we've seen the Kawasaki's and the Ducatis just not really split by anything more than 1 or 2 kilometres, if even that, for most of the sessions. You can see Forrest defending well against the factory Ducati rider Marco Malandri.
Great ride once again from Forrest. Also a commendable ride again from Lowe's, working very, very hard on that Yamaha to keep up with this front group. There we see Nikki Hayden back into the pits. Big, big disappointment for Nikki Hayden. Nikki Hayden not normally known for crashing too much, so you know how hard he was having to work on that Honda if you see Nikki Hayden come off.
Yeah, Nikki Hayden after yesterday's race just making perfectly clear just how much work there is to be done for Honda to get competitive with this new Fireblade. Says that the potential of the bike is probably quite good. He's ridden the road bike, says it's really strong. It's just a case of getting the race bike ready for WorldSBK action. But you can see 2 guys ready for action. Chaz Davies leading the way from Jonathan Ray, but Marco Malandri now making the move on Xavi Forrest. We saw Forrest take the high line last time around, and he's trying to do the same again this time, just defending and able to hold off Malandri, but looks like only a matter of time before Malandri gets through. You can see Jonathan Ray runs a bit wide, and that opens the door for Forrest to get into second position.
Exactly, and it's back to a 4-rider fight out the front. Lowe's continuing to just watch on, waiting to pick up any pieces. Looks like Marco Malandri there still at the back of that group as Forrest does try and get back past Jonathan Ray. Jonathan Ray pretty solid in second there as we come into the Honda head-to-head favourite overtaking spot on this Phillip Island circuit. Nothing to choose between these top 5. You could throw a blanket over them. Tom Sykes there leading that chasing group, but he's over a second behind these guys in the front, about 1.3 seconds currently trying to deal with Michael Van Mark and Camille Lavity and Savadori having their own little battle there for the top 10.
Yeah, still a couple of tenths of a second faster than the leaders last time around Sykes, so maybe he'll be able just to edge his way closer, but with 11 laps to go, he needs to start taking chunks of time out of them.
Is Jonathan Ray watching and waiting once again. We heard from Leon Camille that he was a bit worried that one of those two might fall asleep. The pace was so slow yesterday. Regardless, it's an absolutely thrilling battle out the front. No doubt Forrest and Marco Malandri absolutely riding out of their skin to stay at the front as we do approach half race distance. Once we cross this lap, there will only be 10 laps left of this incredible Phillip Island circuit and round 1 in the 2017 World Superbike Championship. It looks like it's 4 abreast. Jonathan goes from second to third as Marco Malandri slides up into podium contention. Once again, the former Grand Prix winner is out to return to the podium in just his second Superbike race back after a bit of a sabbatical.
Yeah, it was a decent recovery there from Bray, and we saw the top end of that Kawasaki again, just and his ability to use the bit of a slipstream at the end of the straight. Ray actually came across the line in 4th, just as Malandri and Forrest tried to get through. It's a good recovery from Ray just to keep 3rd, but you can see it's still Chaz Davies in front. And this is what we've been waiting for. We've been waiting for Malandri just to see what he can do in the race. Throughout testing, he's looked comfortable on the bike. He's looked happy with the team. And now we get to see just how he is over the course of a 22-lap race. It was a mistake yesterday from Malandri that really forced him out of the race, but looks like he's got good pace again today. And you can see just a replay of the start as Jonathan Ray, Chaz Davies and Tom Sykes all leave the 3rd row of the grid.
Yep, there we saw a great start from Davies as well, almost immediately getting involved in that top 5 battle. Jonathan Ray doing pretty well, pretty good there as well as Marco Malandri. Didn't quite make the start that he made yesterday, but able to recover as the race went on. It is a Ducati 1, 2 and 4 with Jonathan Ray trying to best the red machines. Then Lowe's there on the blue. It looks like Sykes is starting to slowly gain on this group, slowly closing that gap to now under a second to Lowe's, as Lowe's maybe starts to encounter a couple of tyre problems. It is Ducati head-to-head as we head down into turn 1. But here comes Jonathan Ray, thanks to the slipstream, slides from 3rd into 1st. Marco Malandri there stays in second with Chaz Davies dropping back from 1st to 3rd with Forrest right behind him. Pretty difficult to pick out the difference between those 3 Panigales, all of them absolutely flying and all of them with a pretty similar colour scheme. It is number 1 versus number 33, a pretty familiar battle with both Ray and Malandri having had 1 or 2 punch-ups in their World Superbike careers. Of course, not literal punch-ups out on track, but these thrilling Superbike battles as we're experiencing right now. Race 1 was an absolute fantastic race, and race 2 is so far not disappointed as Jonathan Ray does lead up through turn 7 and into the Hayshed turn 8.
Yeah, what we've seen so far in this lap is that Lowe's has been able to take advantage of the scrapping for second position there to be able to move back to within touching distance of fourth position in Javi Forest. But Tom Sykes right there with him. You can see the green Kawasaki, number 66 with the red helmet, now just starting to really be right there with Alex Lowe's in that fight for fifth. So Tom Sykes doing a really good job here at the opening round of the championship, a round where I think everyone would have thought, you know, 2 top 5s would be a good weekend for Tom Sykes this circuit. So really impressive to be able to bridge that gap over the last 4 or 5 laps.
Exactly, nothing to choose here at the front as Jonathan does lead as they begin the run down the Garden straight. But Marco Malandri looking for a way through thanks to the slipstream. Watch out for Chaz Davies as well, who gets the double slipstream. Davies looking for a way past Johnny into turn 1, just up the inside there. Johnny may have the inside line for turn 2, but watch out for Forrest. Forrest slides ahead of Davies there. Lowe's and Sykes looking on the best seats in the house for this battle.
Yeah, and you can see that really once anyone's hitting the front, they're still backing it off and just taking the pace back into the mid to high 32s. That's really what's helped Sykes to bridge this gap. The leaders all thinking in terms of that tyre life for them, and it's giving us a good scrap, but it's also opened the door for Sykes to get back and make this a leading group of 6. You can see every time Jonathan Ray's hit the front, the lap times have pushed out now. 32.5 last time around from Ray. We've had a few laps that were down around 31.9, 32.1s, but once Ray hit the front, he backed it off again, and even just coming across the line, you could see that Malandri was able to get within touching distance across the line rather than needing the slipstream at the end of the straight.
Yeah, Marco Malandri can smell victory in the air, wants to win in his first weekend back on the job. Currently leads down through MG corner. Davies there right behind Jonathan Bray. There you can see Marco Malandri's lap progression. Pretty solid progression there from 10th on the grid. That's the great thing about this race 2 format. It does give so many riders a chance. Gives the favourites, you know, that puts them with a bit more to do, and also gives the likes of Forrest that tiniest bit of an advantage to help them stay fighting up the front as Marco Malandri does lead. Bit of a wobble there from the Ducati, nothing too serious as we come down the Gardner Straight into turn 1, doing named another 500cc legend with a corner named after him here at Phillip Island. Jonathan looking for a way past Malandri. Can he do it around the outside at turn 2? No, he can't quite do it. Davies also sniffing up the inside of Jonathan Ray to try and get behind his teammate.
And Malandri has taken wins from the midfield in the past. Indeed, his first ever WorldSBK win came from the 3rd row of the grid. So he has been able to get through the field in the past, and Malandri chasing that 20th victory of his career and that 100th Italian victory in WorldSBK. You can see Alex Lowe's chasing another top 4, top 5 finish and gets down the inside of Xavi Forrest. Lowe's aiming for the podium if it's possible this weekend. He said all the way through the weekend that the goal for him was just to come away from Phillip Island with strong pace and show that consistency he's been working on. If he's able to fight for the podium, he'll fight for the podium. Otherwise, the goal was just 2 top 5 finishes. Good opening weekend so far for Alex Lowe's.
Yeah, really solid performance, really commendable rides for Lowe's as he now does turn his attention to trying to chase down, but it looks like Forrest is sniffing up the inside of the British rider. Big move there from Forrest to slide back ahead of him. There we go, Lowe's around the outside on the Yamaha as they come up through turn 11.
Good stuff from Lowe's there. He suffered a few false neutrals into MG yesterday, caused him to run wide a few times, but you can see Tom Sykes keeping a watching brief in 6th position. Malandri's going to come across the line. We'll have a look at the lap times and see what kind of pace Malandri's trying to run. It's another 31.9 from Malandri. So as I said, once Jonathan Ray hit the front, he backed the pace off. Malandri's trying to just get through and maybe try and break away from these guys. But again, those high 31s, the kind of pace that we were expecting in the race.
Yep, and here we can see the battle for 11th place, featuring Ryderberger, De Angelis, Bradel, Ramos, and then wildcard Josh Brooks there at the back. Josh Brooks potentially on track for a point, which would be a big bonus for him. Stefan Bradel showing a fair bit more speed than he did in the first race, so good to see Bradel making some pretty consistent steps through. Of course, Ryderberger, the only BMW out on track now that his teammate Jordi Torres has retired from the race, out before it even got started with a technical problem. Number 6 there. Here's where Stefan Bradel struggles so much in yesterday's race, through turn 3, now into turn 4. And just pretty well through there. Ramos trying to get through on Stefan Bradel, can't quite do it.
And at the front of the field, it's still remaining pretty constant between Malandri, Ray and Davis. Only a few tenths between the leading 3. Little bit of a gap to Alex Lowe's, about a half a second, but you can see Lowe's recovering well through the faster sections where you can flow that Yamaha, but it's going to be a big ask for him to be able to really get on terms with Chaz Davies, Jonathan Ray and Marco Malandri.
Exactly. Both Davies and Ray seem to be able to pretty consistently match whatever pace Malandri is throwing down. Malandri as they're trying to maybe push ahead, but can't quite do it just yet.
Yeah, these have been the three guys through the test and practice here at Phillip Island that have been the most impressive. And no surprise that they're the three that's leading the way. We've got 5 laps to go, and now the question starts to become, what tactics do you play? Everyone's going to probably have conserved their tyres to enough of a degree now to be able to start to get a bit more aggressive if they want. But we saw yesterday that when Jonathan Ray hit the front, Chaz Davies was able to get within a whisker of beating him to the line, but just not quite able to do it. So maybe on this occasion, Davies is going to try and get to the front and see if he's able to stay ahead of Jonathan Ray this time, instead of just missing out like in yesterday's race by less than 1/10 of a second.
Exactly, but 2 second-place finishes certainly wouldn't be the end of the world for somebody like Davies. This is a very long championship, 26 races in total, that's 13 rounds, so still a lot of points on offer. You can't win the championship at round 1, but you can certainly lose it, unfortunately. Marco Malandri, one of these riders, looking to make up the lost ground of yesterday. Here we see a replay of the leaders running down the straight. Pretty stable, all things considered, for both Ray and Davies. Pretty common to see bikes weave around there as they get on the power, maybe go up onto the rumble strips.
Yeah, and just behind that lead group, Sykes has lost a lot of time. He's opened a second is the gap between Sykes and Javi Forez now.
Yeah, it does look like Sykes continuing to just sort of rubber band close to this group and then ease back off. Forez as well, trying his best to hang on to this group. Lowe's doing pretty well to stick within the slipstream of these top 3 as they make their way to Doohan Corner. Just 4 laps to go of what has been another incredible World Superbike race here at one of the best racetracks in the world, Phillip Island.
Yeah, and I think Forez looks like he may be just a little bit stretched now to be able to go back and get to this podium fight. Lowe's just sticking with them, probably having to just rely on if there's any sort of a scrap between the leaders to try and make a move. But you can see Lowe's right there with Chaz Davies, just whether he's actually got enough pace to make the moves on Davies. He's been really strong into Honda hairpin all weekend, and you can see just trying to get down the inside of Davies and just about manages to get the bike pulled up in time for Lowe's.
Very, very close there for the number 22. Very easy to get sucked into that turn 4, especially if you are trying to overtake. But it is Malandri who still leads ahead of Jonathan Ray. Chaz Davies with Alex Lowe's continuing to just pressure those leading 3. I think that Lowe's could certainly be in podium contention here as we see Jonathan try and make a move on Malandri around the outside. No, Malandri manages to just hold it as we go over Lukey Heights. Will Davies try something down into MG? No, he sits and waits patiently behind the number 1.
Tell you what, Harry, there's been some brave moves so far this weekend. We've seen a lot of overtaking into Stoner Corner, turn 3, one of the most exciting corners of the year, but trying to make a move around the outside through Hayshed into Lukey Heights, that's a very brave move from Jonathan Ray to attempt. He wasn't able to make a pull off, but you can see sliding there for Ray. Chaz Davies right there behind them on the number 7 Ducati. But it's still Malandri leading the way for now, but under a lot of pressure now as Jonathan Ray manages to push through. Chaz Davies follows Jonathan Ray through, so it's number 1 from number 7, and then the 33 of Marco Malandri in 3rd position.
Exactly, slipstream playing a huge factor in that run down to turn 1. Just 3 laps to go here. It is Jonathan Ray currently in the lead as they make their way around Stoner Corner, heading towards turn 4, the tight Honda heck, and here we go through Stoner, bike sliding, the rear screeching under the demand of those super bikes. Jonathan Ray leads through, and Alex Lowe's there up into 3rd place ahead of Marco Malandri. Great move from the number 22 on the Paddy Yamaha.
Yeah, and his favourite overtaking position of the racetrack into turn 4. We made a few moves there yesterday, just able to use really the turning ability of the Yamaha and just the ability under braking to make that move. You can see it's Ray and Davies now coming through the Hayshed with 2.5 laps to go, and Lowe's right behind them. But Malandri and Forez scrapping it out now for 4th and 5th, but Malandri not to be underestimated. We've seen how much top speed he has once he's in the slipstream.
Also interesting to see Forez now closing back up, slams it up the inside of Malandri. Malandri forced to stand the bike up there. Marco will not be too happy about that one. He'll be seething to try and get back through on Forez and close down that gap to those leading through, who are starting to open up a bit of advantage over these 2 Ducatis.
There's 2 laps to go now as they come onto the Gardner Straight, and you can see Lowe's right behind the leading 3, but can he use the slipstream to try and make a move? Chaz Davies trying to do the same on Jonathan Ray, gets to the front now, Davies, and this is what we didn't see yesterday. We didn't see Davies hit the front in those closing stages. Can he stay there from Jonathan Ray? We know from yesterday that Ray really able to use that lead quite effectively in the final laps to take the win, but now it's Chaz Davies' turn to see if he can return the favour and take the win in the opening race of the season. You can see Marco Malandri half a second behind, a lap and a half to go. It's going to be a big ask for Malandri to get close enough to Lowe's to get back onto the podium on his return to WorldSBK. Lowe's getting down the inside of Jonathan Ray as well, into Honda hairpin once again from Lowe's, trying to make those moves. And a great move by Lowe's to stay in front on the way through Siberia. You can see just runs in a bit too deep. Jonathan Ray able to get back underneath his rival through Siberia.
Exactly, and that's exactly what Chaz Davies wants. Any breathing room will be crucial, but it looks like Jonathan has already closed it right back up. Number 1 and number 7. We're going to see this battle throughout the entirety of the year as they come back over, looking at it. It's an incredible shot there, then thrusting it down into MG. Will we see somebody attempt a bit of a last-minute do-or-die move on the last lap, which will be coming up in just a few corners' time? Lowe's looking incredible. They're currently in 3rd place, of course, looking to return Yamaha to the top step of the podium for the first time since 2011. Race to Portimao when Marco Malandri last took victory for them. P1, 1 lap to go for Chaz Davies, 0.0 behind for Jonathan Ray. Here we go, the last lap of an incredible Phillip Island weekend. Marco Malandri is right back there. Jonathan Ray slams through into lead. Marco Malandri can't quite do it, sits in 4th, but he's well within touching distance. There's only 11 corners left of this race. It is Jonathan Ray, the number 1, in the number 1 spot, ahead of Chaz Davies. Marco Malandri there slides through into 3rd place. Will Marco Malandri settle for 3rd position, or is he out for blood? Is he out for 1st place? Marco Malandri definitely one to watch as we come into Honda hairpin. Very, very tight there. Nobody can quite do it. Lowe's tries to move up the inside of Marco Malandri. Has to ease it off a bit to not collide with the Italian. Of course, those two did have a bit of an incident in race 1. As we said a little earlier, it is currently Jonathan Ray who leads on the exit of Siberia. Here we go up through turn 7, then into the hayshed. Incredibly fast turn 8, the hayshed, before we then go up over the hill into Lukey Heights for the last time. Davies is close, but it doesn't look like he's going to be close enough as Jonathan Ray pulled the pin with just enough time like we saw yesterday. Chaz Davies' Ducati didn't quite have the legs yesterday to get past Ray on the straight as we come through MG for the last time. Davies is close there, almost slams into the back of Jonathan Ray's bike. Here we are on the Kawasaki, looking back at the number 7 around turn 11. There's only 1 corner left. Will Davies try to set up the slipstream, or is Davies going to be forced to settle for 2nd again? What will happen? Here we go onto the Gardner Straight for the last time. The Ducati Davies weaves. We're chasing it to the line. He tries to blind the slipstream, but no! It looks like Jonathan Ray does do the double ahead of Chaz Davies, who takes 2nd. Marco Malandri there returns to the podium in 3rd place. Lowe's solid 4th there, ahead of 4 is incredible 5th for him. Tom Sykes seeks big hugs there from all of Jonathan Ray's Kawasaki team. What a race from Jonathan Ray. Pole position record with that. Then goes on to take the double. Starting 1st, starting 9th, doesn't matter for Jonathan Ray. He is the king of Phillip Island this weekend as we go on board with him. Handshake there with Forrest. Forrest did take a fair bit of lead. There we go. 40th Superbike victory for Jonathan Ray, and the 4th rider to achieve 40 wins after Fogarty, Bales and Hager, joining some of the biggest names in the history of World Superbikes. Here we have the 3 Ducatis, which he battled with so hard. Marco Malandri, the big wave to the crowd there. Great to see Marco Malandri back up and on the pace there. Chaz Davies settling for 2nd, making up 6 places. Look at that, 8 places made up, 6 places made up, 7 places made up for Marco Malandri as well. The race to grid format has been a huge one. Absolutely thrilling stuff. And just making up 9 places a bit further down the grid. Great work from the former MotoGP podium finisher. Marco Malandri, as we said, great to see that he hasn't lost any of his pace. He will play a factor in this championship. You can guarantee that. Chaz Davies, of course, will now be 10 points behind Jonathan Ray. So a pretty solid start to the season for Davies. Davies didn't have quite an ideal start last year when he took 2nd and 10th. Of course, in the 2nd race, he did crash and then remount. what a weekend we've had here in Phillip Island. Absolutely lovely stuff. And this man here will be on top of the moon. Pole position, won from pole, then came back to win from 9th. This is how close it was. Just 0.02 of a second separating them at the line. We saw a photo finish in World Supersport, and it was almost just as close. Both Superbike races actually decided by under 1/10 of a second. That's exactly what you want from your Superbike racing here at Phillip Island. Well, it has been an absolutely fantastic weekend, I must say. Jonathan Ray, once again there with the fans, waving the flag around. Great to see some Irish fans all the way down here in Phillip Island as well. Great to see Jonathan as well, interacting with the fans once again. Without them, we wouldn't be able to go racing. Of course, it is important that you come and tune in. There we see 2 Ducatis back in the Parc Fermé. A great result for the Aruba.IT team. Absolutely thrilling stuff for them. Chaz Davies, solid weekend. No rash moves. You know, last year we saw Davies maybe worry a bit about Jonathan getting away, maybe try and work a bit too hard for it, but this year just taking it nice and calm, and that could very well pay dividends come the end of the season. There we see Ray just posing for a photo with one of the photographers in front of the flags as he gets back to his number 1 Kawasaki. Could we see that number 1 stay there for a 3rd straight year? Marco Malandri, big hugs with the Ducati team. Great to see the recovery for Marco Malandri as well. He was up there battling for the podium in that first race before the incident at turn 2. Not sure exactly what happened there between him and Lowe's. A very different version of events between those 2 riders, but great to see them both finish this race once again. Again, great, incredible result for Lowe's. 2 4th places for the British rider. He came here saying he wanted 2 top 5s. He did that. Much like Davies, didn't make any rash moves, you know, didn't try and push too hard for the podium. Points are so important in these opening rounds of the championship. Forrest taking 5th place, ahead of Tom Sykes in 6th. Decent points for Sykes, so he's never really gotten on with Van der Mark in the top 10 in 7th place. Camia 8th, incredible result for him as well, ahead of Savadori. And then 10th place, Paul Labadie on his return to Superbikes. And just fighting up there to 11th. A great result for Josh Brooks there in 12th place as well. Jonathan Ray congratulating his team back in Parc Fermé. Ecstatic with the result, and understandably so. What a start to the year for Jonathan Ray. Can't ask for a better way to start the title defense than that. And there we can see the balloons there. Looks like those are for Marco Malandri. There we go. Ray leads the championship with 50 points, 40 for Davies, 10-point difference, 24 points difference for Sykes. Of course, those negative points are to the leader. Sykes and Lowe's actually tied on 26, ahead of Forres on 21, Camia on 19. Great result for him. 16 for Malandri, of course, only scoring those points for 3rd place. Then Van der Mark in 8th with 16 points, ahead of Labadie with 14, Torres with 9 points, Savadori and De Angelis each with 7, as well as Reiterberger, and Kriminakis 6, ahead of Hayden with 5th. And here we go, a replay of the race start. Great start from those, also a pretty formidable start from Flores as well. But watch the back of your screen. It was Jonathan Ray and especially Chaz Davies coming through the middle of the field there, the number 7 Ducati, who made just absolutely stunning starts to get straight up into that top 5, more or less from the word go. Race 2, the grid reshuffle, proving that the racing is exciting always, and proving that the top guys can win from pretty much wherever you put them, but it does make them work a little harder and make the show that much more exciting. On board with Chaz Davies. Great cameras this year to bring you as many different angles as we can for this 30th World Superbike Championship. There we see Parc Fermé packed with fans. As we said, over 60,000 people here this weekend to enjoy some incredible World Superbike action. Be sure you join us throughout the year. As I said, we do have 12 more rounds to go off to Thailand in a bit over 2 weeks' time. Everybody there just finishing off the chats with their crews. Of course, important for the riders to debrief and tell the crews what happened. Stefan Bridle there, 15th place yet again for Stefan Bridle. So matches his best ever result in World Superbike, but he would have certainly been expecting a lot more. Doesn't look super pleased as he walks back to the garage. There you can see Forres just at the top of your screen. He's walking back, really commendable 5th place from the Spanish rider. Excellent stuff. Chaz Davies just sucks down some water there. Really hard work around this Phillip Island circuit as temperatures continue to soar above 20 degrees. A beautiful Australian day. Great day for a barbecue or a bit of a dip in the sea as well. This is just the start of what is sure to be an incredible championship campaign. As I said, we go to Thailand soon, then Aragon, then Assen, then to Italy, then to the UK, then back to Italy. And here we have Marco Malandri chatting with Steve English down in Parc Fermé.
Marco Malandri, your first podium since returning to World Superbikes, and a really strong performance over the course of this weekend.
Yeah, it's been a very good weekend. Difficult race one, even more race two, because I came from the back and was not easy. I pushed on the tire a bit too much, and the last few laps I didn't have enough grip to try to fight for a win, but those two guys were a bit stronger than me today. But to be back on podium in the first race after 1 year and a half off, it's awesome. So I just want to thank the team, Ducati, Aruba, all the guys been working to help me to get this.
That's great. Thanks, Marco.
There we go, tyre life proving to be a deciding factor there for Marco Malandri. In his words, he cooked the tyres, just wasn't able to stay with front two. But there we can see him sliding through on lows at turn 2. He would unfortunately not be able to advance ahead of that third place position, but still a pretty solid start on his return to racing. Clearly got his mind back in racing mode, which Marco Malandri said was one of his big goals for the weekend. Great to see that Malandri is able to battle with the championship favourites from the word go. Malandri, that race, did set the fast lap at 1:31.178. About 0.2 of a second slower than Chaz Davies' race lap record from 2014 there. That lap did come on lap 6 for Malandri before he, quote, cooked his tyres. There he is, just explaining to the team what happened. Still pretty pleased with that third place there. Beaming is Lowe's there. Alex Lowe's, what a weekend for him. Did exactly what he said he wanted to do. 2 top 5s, really, really solid points there. Bit disappointing for Eugene Laverty. He was certainly expecting to be a bit stronger this weekend, but as we said a little earlier, still just trying to get that Aprilia working how he would want to. It's a bike that's changed a fair bit since he last rode it. There was Stefan Bradl again, walking back to the pits as we look down on Parc Fermé once again. Of course, the podium just above Parc Fermé, so everybody in prime position to get sprayed with Prosecco. There is Jonathan Ray with his 40 balloons for 40 World Superbike victories as he heads towards Steve English to have another chat down in Parc Fermé.
Jonathan Ray, 40 race wins in World Superbikes and a great start to your title defence with a double win here at PI.
I'm so happy, honestly. To win 2 last lap battles here is to win a battle here in the last lap's hard, but to do it 2 times now here in different different tactical racing is. I'm so happy. Honestly, I want to thank Kawasaki and Showa and Pirelli, because we worked so hard in the off season to work on tyre conservation with our bike, and my tyre in Parc Fermé looks so good. On the left side of the tyre, I still have a lot of wear marker left, so that bodes well for the start of the season. And I just wanted to come here and start my year in a good way. And before yesterday, I hadn't won before the summer break 2016, so it's nice to kickstart my campaign with 50 points and 2 wins.
Thanks, Johnny. Thank you.
Very satisfied reigning world champion there, and so he should be. 2 incredible battles in both races. If you didn't join us for race 1, be sure to go back and check that one out, because it was a rip roar there. We can see the race winning overtake into turn 1 just ahead of Chaz Davies. Here we go, looking back, there's Davies. That's how close these guys get out at the front. Incredible to see the trust and the faith between them all. And then it was a drag to line. Davies tried all he could. His Ducati getting a bit of a weave. Jonathan Ray taking a slightly wider line onto the rumble strips, but the ZX-10R just outrunning the Panigale to the line. Great flag work there as well. Pretty commendable ride for Leon Camier as well. 8th place for the Andorra resident. Disastrous start to the weekend. Got almost no track time during free practice. but turn that around. Then Envy Augusta seems to be working pretty well this year, and no doubt we'll see Camilla starting from that front row on a fair few occasions, maybe even sneak up onto the podium. And here is Chaz Davies once again.
Chaz Davies just pipped in both races this weekend, but 40 points, a really strong start to the season.
Yeah, definitely. It was tight, both races. This one even closer, I reckon. The pace was a lot better in this one. I think that at least somebody maintained a good pace at the front. Everybody had a little go at it and tried to break away, but it's near on impossible here at Phillip Island to get that gap and get that little bit of breathing room. So again, just ran my own race, tried a few different things during the race, but again marked my main rivals and tried to break away with a couple laps to go, but yeah, not going to happen. Impossible here, but happy with 40 points. We gave away a lot of points here last year. So definitely take the 40 points at what is possibly not one of our favourite tracks, and look forward to the next one.
That's great. Well done, Chaz.
Big things to come from Chaz Davies throughout this 2017 season. Davies made some big moves into turn one. You have to admit he really did benefit from the slipstream and then the run into turn one very, very late on the brakes. There he is chasing Jonathan Ray. Will it be number 1 versus number 7 throughout this year, or can the likes of Malandri, Lowe's and Sykes, maybe even Flores mix it up? Salvadori able to finish this race, of course, unfortunately crashing out of race 1. 9th position, just beating his teammate Laverty. About 8 seconds separating them at the line. There you can hear Salvadori just debriefing with his team in English. Of course, that SMR team is a British-based team, and Salvadori has been really working hard to learn English, not just for the team, but also for every other media engagement. Of course, English is one of the more popular languages in the paddock, alongside Italian and Spanish as well. A fair bit of French coming through as well this year, with the likes of Mayas in World Super Sport. There's Ramos once again in the points. 2 points for the former Spanish champion. He seems pretty pleased with that one. Pretty tired as well after a hard race under the hot Australian sun here in Phillip Island. Of course, it'll stay pretty hot when we head to Thailand in just a couple weeks' time. So all those riders need to make sure that they are still working on their fitness. I'm sure they will be. All of these guys are top level athletes. I wouldn't want to challenge any of them to a running race, that's for sure. There we go. The riders just quickly wiping themselves off before the podium. Hot work. Been a fair little while since Marco Malandri stood on a podium. Of course, he did race for half of 2015 in the MotoGP World Championship. He was sort of forced to go there with Aprilia. Wasn't so happy about that one, but both Chaz Davies and Jonathan Ray pretty familiar to take to the steps of the podium for both of those boys.
Please welcome your top 3 riders for World Superbike.
Here we go as we walk out with them on to the Phillip Island podium at the Yamaha Finance Australian round of the World Super Championship. Marco Malandri heads out first for 3rd place, Chaz Davies second for 2nd, and then heading out 3rd is your race winner, Jonathan Ray, an honorary resident of Phillip Island, greeted with roars from the crowd. There's Pararebia's cruise ship and the rest of that KRT team ecstatic with the double victory this weekend. Of course, we will soon be getting the trophies presented. There is Marco Malandri's trophy for 3rd place, presented by Brad Ryan from Yamaha Financial Services. Of course, Yamaha Financial Services sponsoring this round. Some nice Australian native flowers as well for Marco Malandri. Bit different to the sort of flowers you get in Italy, that's for sure. And here we have Chaz Davies lifting up his trophy as well. And now for your race winner, Jonathan Ray, about to accept his trophy, his 2nd first place trophy of the weekend. Great little collection to go along with his pole position trophy. What a weekend for the world champion. Kisses the trophy, points to his team, the people who make it all possible. And there we have a member of the KRT team coming up to collect the team's award. No doubt we'll be seeing 1 or 2 KRT members up there on the top step of the podium, joining both Jonathan and Sykes throughout this year. But don't rule out those 2 Ducati boys there either. Both of them are formidable on their day. And as Davies said, this isn't even one of the circuits he feels that works best. Here's the anthem. big celebrations there from Jonathan Ray. We'll now have the Japanese national anthem right now to celebrate Kawasaki's win. What a fantastic weekend for all three of those men up on the podium, especially for Jonathan Ray. Gets his title defense started in the absolute perfect way with a double, and the Prosecco does fly. The high-speed camera there to capture it in all of its glory. Everybody there definitely enjoying a bit of a soaking. Great reward after a hard race. No doubt there will be some celebrations around the Phillip Island tonight. Cows is set to be a bit of a big one, I assume, tonight here in Australia. Hopefully the weather does keep up. Would be nice to enjoy it a bit before heading off to bed a little later tonight. Now all of the top three pose for the podium photo. Helmets in hand. What a great weekend. Cannot believe what an incredible weekend it actually was down here in Phillip Island. The perfect start to celebrate 30 years of World Superbike now in 2017.
Yeah, and it sets us up really well for the championship that we're going to see throughout this season, with Chaz Davies really strong in those opening races.
Yeah, and it's all set to continue as we leave the stunning Phillip Island circuit. It's going to be just as hot as we head to round 2 in Buriram at the Chang International Circuit in Thailand. For round 2, we're going tropical at the Buriram circuit. Thailand lives and breathes motorcycling. It can guarantee the grandstands will be packed come race day. High-speed action coming together with ancient tradition as we continue our overseas voyage in this vibrant country. Get set for the Motul Thai round on the 10th to 12th of March. In just a little bit of time. Bit of a wave there from Jonathan Ray, maybe photo bombing the Ducati team photo there. Well, I certainly don't think anybody can be disappointed with the incredible weekend of racing that we had here in Phillip Island. All three of the races, both World Superbike and World Supersport, were absolutely incredible. As we go here to look at the final race results, of course, it is Jonathan Ray who won ahead of Chaz Davies, so tight, earning 25 points for the second victory of the weekend. Marco Malandri third, Lowe's, Forrest, Sykes, Van der Mark up there inside the top 10. Great to see with the 7th place finish ahead of Camia and Savadori. Laverty in 10th, ahead of De Angelis. Brooks picking up some points as a wild card, ahead of Marcos Reiterberger. Raymond Ramos, Stefan Bridle in 15th, just ahead of Randy Krumenacker, not quite able to recreate his top 10. Andre Jezek was able to get a finish in there with Hayden, Badavini, Russo and Torres unable to finish the race. Of course, Torres having to roll off before the race even got underway with a technical problem. And here we are, the Riders' Championship. 50 points for Jonathan Ray from 2 victories. 2 second place finishes leave Chaz Davies with 20 points. Tom Sykes there, tied for, not tied for 3rd place. Sykes does get it on virtue of having a podium finish here, and Lowe's on 26 points. Forres on 5th, ahead of Camia. Marco Malandri up into 7th place there, gaining 9 place, having not scored in the first race. Van der Mark 8th, ahead of Laverty in 9th. Torres still inside the top 10 despite being unable to finish the second race. Savadori there in 11th, ahead of De Angelis, Reiterberger, Krumenacker, Hayden, Ramos. Brooks there in 17th, ahead of full-time rider Stefan Bridle. So great to see Brooks pick up some points, rewarding all of his hard efforts to get that bike sorted out and that package together for the Yamaha Finance Australian round. Kawasaki lead the Manufacturers' Championship with Ducati there in 2nd place thanks to Chaz Davies' efforts. Yamaha there 3rd, ahead of MV Augusta, surprisingly ahead of Aprilia, BMW, and then Honda. Really tough start to the season for them with only 6 points there. In the Teams Championship, it is of course Kawasaki Racing Team who lead ahead of Aruba.it Racing Ducati. Pata Yamaha there in 3rd, ahead of the one-man band Barney Racing Team. Milwaukee Aprilia in 5th, ahead of MV Augusta. Altea BMW, Petticini Racing SC Pro project there. And here we go, what a stunning race it was. The new format for race 2. proving to be just as exciting, if not more exciting, than the race that preceded it. My name has been Harry Lloyd. It has been an absolute pleasure to join you alongside Steve English for this fantastic weekend of Superbike racing. Be sure to come along to Thailand. As I said, the 10th to 12th of March. The action is sure to be just as hot there. The 2017 season is only just starting, and I can't be more excited for the remaining 12 rounds of this incredible World Superbike Championship.